Addie stumbled into the tent to grab her bow and quiver of arrows. Outside, the unmistakable sounds of war assailed her ears as the soldiers fought the creature swooping down on them. Cries for help came from all around her, cries that faded into the distance as some of the men were carried away in the animal's grasps. Grotesque shadows moved outside the tent's walls. Silhouetted by the campfires, she could see men slashing at legs and wings that descended on them from above. As she stared at the fight going on less than a dozen feet away, she watched one bat open its mouth to reveal protruding fangs and sink them into the soldier. Giving a shake of its head, it took off with its prize. The heavy flapping wings created strong gusts, almost blowing down the tent's sides. Addie shucked her coat, tossing it away from her, and took a stance over her husband's still body, bracing him between her legs as she readied her bow. She hoped the tent would provide some protection against the bats, but in case it didn't, she was ready. She knew little about bats, about their habits and peculiarities, especially the vampire variety. These creatures weren't among the kind which attacked Alta-Novus or Wallace, if memory served. Therefore, her education while growing up didn't include any details she needed to learn in order to defeat them. But one thing was very clear. These were big beasts, bigger than crows and more deadly, and therefore harder to kill. Not impossible to kill, but she would have to take advantage of every opportunity she saw to strike. In addition, she needed to make mental notes as to any weaknesses she saw in case she faced them again. Something slammed against the top of the tent, forcing her to duck. The material sagged halfway to the ground, then suddenly lifted, as if whatever had landed on it launched back into the air. The bats were mostly silent. A few squeaks were all she could hear above the din of the soldiers' cries and grunts, the heavy flapping of wings, and the solid whack of swords striking their targets. Another one of those things landed on the tent roof. This time, one of the middle supporting poles cracked under the weight, and everything came crashing to the ground. The lit lantern that hung on the pole spilled its containment of oil, and flames began to spread across the doused pillows. Long claws started ripping through the tough fabric as the creature tried to untangle itself from the material. It screamed when a portion of its wing came in contact with the flames. Steadying herself, Addie aimed, waiting for a good shot. A mouth appeared in the slit. She let fly an arrow, but the bat jerked a microsecond before it hit, and the barb pierced its lip instead of going all the way to the back of its throat. The bat gave an ear-piercing shriek and tried to shred the tent fabric to get to her. Calmly, Addie lifted her chin, pulled 3 more arrows from her quiver, nocked one, and waited. A bat landed heavily mere feet away of the other side of the tent. Addie got the sound of men dispatching it, then hurrying away. The fires slowly crept over the bedding and pillows. Heat and smoke gradually filled the tent, making her cough. She glanced down at the man lying between her feet. She knew he was totally oblivious to what was going on around him, which was both a hindrance and a blessing. But if the fire continued to expand, she would be forced to make the decision either to let him remain in the tent where he could suffocate, or drag him outside where he would be at the mercy of those winged terrors. She couldn't wake him. Even if she could, he wouldn't have the strength to fight them off, although she knew he'd try. A loud ripping sound jerked her attention back to the bat. The fire had made its way to the side of the tent and was crawling up the fabric like a reverse waterfall. The smoke was getting thicker to the point where it nearly obliterated all sight of the animal. "Come on, you worthless piece of shit!" she yelled at the creature and sent another arrow into the animal. The bat shrieked again in pain and redoubled its efforts to reach her. It was exactly the move she'd hoped for. She finally got the shot she needed when the bat stuck its entire head through one of the slits. It opened its wide mouth to reveal the pink maw and curved fangs. Large black eyes glittered in the firelight. The arrow went directly into the creature's left eye, into the brain, killing it almost instantly. The bat backed away, releasing its grasp of the tent as it went into its death throes and eventually stilled.